me tell you something. Words can't even put into place how cruel life can be. Life can be wonderful. But let me tell you something, life can beat you down sometimes, and it's all about hanging in the fight. You know, and as you get older and older, you got to fight more and more. It's really ridiculous. Let me tell you something, guys. This is since the beginning of the season, this is what we have. I know you guys are sick and tired of hearing this, but it's the truth. This is all we have. 2-3 years ago, by July, we're in June. The end of June now, this cabinet would be bristling with video games. I'd have to build another cabinet. I'd have to get ready to build another cabinet at least. This is what we have. I've given up all hope. When I go to the garage sales now, I look for tools. This is what I look for. Meat cleavers. I don't know when I'm ever going to use it. I use it to cut my twine. Anyhow, that's the kind of thing I get excited about now, because, to be honest with you, if I was going out strictly looking for video games, I wouldn't go anymore. I'd be so disappointed. So this is where life gets really cruel. I get up this morning, I say, all right, you know, I'm stumbling out of the door, like every Saturday morning, to go out to the garage sales. My camera glasses are down in the basement. I said to myself, I'm not even going to walk down the fucking stairs to get these camera glasses, because I'm not going to find anything. And let me tell you something. This is where the laws of the universe have punished me. When you walk out that door and you have a negative attitude, you say, I'm not going to find any video games. Guess what? You're not going to find any video games. And I don't know how to explain that. Logically, it doesn't make any sense. But that's the truth. But every once in a while, the universe kicks you in the ass. So I leave the glasses at home, and I go out, and I make the most killer finds this season. It got to the point where I kept on, it was like one garage sale after another, I was finding stuff. And it got to the point where I wanted it to stop because I had no way to prove it to anybody. So guys, this is going to be a very, very boring show. You might want to go and watch, you know, some other guy, because it'll probably be more interesting than this, because you're going to have to take my word for it on this stuff. I mean, it's not the greatest haul of all time, okay? I've been watching CJR lately, and the guy makes me sick to my fucking stomach. I don't know what's going on up in Canada. But it's to the point now where when I go talk to women at a garage sale, 40, 50-year-old women now, I ask them if they got any old video games, and they tell me, like, what, Zelda? Super Mario Brothers? What are you looking for? Altered Beast? They're telling me these things now. 2-3 years ago, women were completely oblivious. They would call them, what do you want? Super Sega? Or they'd say, you want Atari 64? Something, they would say stupid things like that. And they would call them tapes. They wouldn't know what the fuck they were talking about. So now it's like everybody you talk to is a video game connoisseur. So to be honest with you, the person that brings you retro video games out of the house now, I mean, you got to find a real dummy to sell you video games at a cheap price. And thank God, you know, the sales were full of dummies today. Alright, let's get started. You like how I duck off the camera so I could do a little edit there? Alright, here we go. Okay, Wii games. I mean, what are you going to say about Wii games? This is like the first or second sale that I went to. Wii games, I mean, you're tripping over Wii games. You come out of your house in the morning, you trip over a pile of Wii games. I don't know, they're all over the fucking place. So if I see a box of Wii games, and let me tell you something. Man, oh man, there's so much shovelware for the Nintendo Wii. The Let's Dance and the High School Musical, and oh god, I look at a box of Wii games and it makes me sick to my stomach. But you know, I'll see Wii games and strictly with just selling them off in mind. I'm just being honest. So what I will do is I'll grab what I think are marquee titles, even though I know absolutely nothing about the Wii. I'm so proud that I don't know anything about the Wii. I say that now, and like what, 7 years from now, the Wii will be like immensely collectible. I remember I used to talk shit like that about PS1 games. Who the fuck cares? You got them for $0.25 a piece. I used to just pass over PS1 games. Now I'm drooling over them when I find a nice box of PS1 games. Here we go. Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. Super Mario Galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy 2. And Crash of the Titans. Whoop-de-doo. $1 a piece. I will not pay more than $1 for Wii games. I mean, unless it's some select title. I don't even know the select title, so there you go. $4. Okay, moving along. Okay, and this was at the very next garage sale. You know, I go up there, there's a young teenage girl and a mom. I asked if they have any video games. Oh, the girl says, oh, Johnny's got video games, her brother. Let me go in and ask him. So right there and then, like, you know, theater of the mind happens. What could possibly come out of the house? Sometimes, listen, I've seen big boxes come out of the house, and it's just like your blood pressure goes through the roof. And, you know, those types of things could be so exciting, and they could be such a letdown. In this case, it was such a letdown. She comes out with 2 DS's. One of them's got a screen that's scratched up beyond belief. But it works. I always do this. I turn it on, and then I quickly turn it off. And I go, do you even know if they work? Just to get the price down. And then most of the times they say, and I say, and you got to get that disinterested look on your face. You know, like, oh, okay. And then, anyway, that one's got a scratched up screen. This one's in fairly decent shape. They both turn on. They have games inside of them. Sonic Advance 3. Here we go. The Incredible Hulk. And Pokemon Platinum version. So there you go. She asked $20 for the 2. I offered a 10. I don't even know why I offered a 10. I should have offered a 5 because she would have took 5 for him. The way, you know, you can tell the way she went after it. She would have took 5 for it, but that's it. $10, 2 DS's. Okay. Okay, so here's where things got a little hairy. I woke up to this garage sale. 2 old people there. I say, hey, you got any old video games or anything like that? And then the woman says, oh, how about Christine's, I guess their daughter, Christine's old Nintendo set. And I'm thinking, Nintendo set, oh, this is great. So the old man says, oh, yeah, I know where it is. I'll go get it. He walks in the house, and he walks in the house, so I'm sitting there, while you're at the sale, you know, you're looking around, you're pretending like you're looking at stuff, but in your mind, you're just thinking, you know, what's coming out, what's coming out, what's coming out. And as I'm looking around, I see this young kid come up the driveway. So automatically, I hear the music in my head, like, da-na, da-na. Because, listen, when a young kid comes to a garage sale, all right, I can only think of a handful of things that the kid's looking for. He's not looking for an old clock or a blender. Okay, I'm like, this son of a bitch is going to be looking, like, we got a shark on our hands. So the lady says to me, she goes, yeah, she goes, she's had that Nintendo for a long time. She starts making conversation with me and whatnot. So the kid says, did you say Nintendo? And I'm like, oh, here we go. So I say right away, listen, I've learned over the years. I said to the kid right away, I said, yeah, Nintendo. He's bringing it out for me right now. So it was kind of like to, you know, shut him down a little bit. But the kid's persistent. There was a staircase going up to the door. And now the kid's standing right by the edge of the staircase. Like he's waiting for it to come out. So I'm like, fucking son of a bitch. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to make my move. As soon as the guy comes out, I'm gonna have to like grab the box out of his hand. So the guy comes out of the house. I go walking up. I take like a step up the step, like I got to do it like a lunge now, and do a step up the step. I take the box from him, and now I'm like walking over to a corner of the garage sale. There's like a fence that goes around like this, and they got their table set up like this. I go and I put it in the corner, and then I flare my lats like Franco Columbo, just so I could block this asshole from looking over my shoulder. And there he is. He's like this. He's looking around. He's looking around. And I got the thing pulled into me tight. And I open up. I just look. I take a quick look at the games. I say, take $20 for it. $20 seems to me. There we go. $20 seems to me to be like the magic number when it comes to stuff like this. At this point, I got a shark on my tail. You know, I don't want a low ball. I don't want asshole to open his mouth. $20 to an old person sounds like $100. So I said, $20 for it? The lady, sure. Make the transaction, turned around, gave my friend a nice little wink, and I was fucking out of there. So here we go. All right. It's a Nintendo Entertainment Center. It's really dirty. Ah, you know what? Nothing inside. Came with a zapper. You know, 2 controllers, all the wires, the whole kit. And let's see. And 7 games. Tetris, Super Mario Brothers 2, Karate Kid, Kid Icarus. You know, it's interesting. I think I always talk about Kid Icarus when it comes up. We've picked up, I think, Kid Icarus 3 times in the history of the show, and Kid Icarus was one of those funny games when I was growing up. It was either you had Metroid or you had Kid Icarus. They were out around the same time, and you had kids that would have Kid Icarus, and you would have kids that would have Metroid. And the funny thing about Kid Icarus and Metroid is, all through their life cycle on the Nintendo Entertainment System, this was a $45 to $50 game. The price never came down. You would never find Metroid or Kid Icarus in the clearance rack. And that just speaks volumes about this game. I have never played Kid Icarus, but I know it's a great game. Just for the fact that the price never came down on it. You know, it was one of those early magical Nintendo games. I imagine. I never played it. I'm just imagining. So, and from what I understand, it was very difficult. But then again, everybody says Metroid is very difficult. Which it is, but back then it didn't seem that way. When you're a kid and you have just volumes and volumes and volumes of time to play video games, games didn't seem that difficult. You plowed through them. Okay. Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt. Look at this, wow. Funko Land cardboard case. That brings back memories. Funko Land being one of the first like retro video gaming stores where you could buy used video games. Very neat. And Fax Anadu. Funny story about this. I used to hang out with this Colombian kid across the street. His name was Georgie. And his father would go back and forth to Colombia all the time. I don't know. He was probably a leader of the cartel. But we used to beat up Georgie. The kid's name was Georgie. We used to beat him up, and his father said he was going to hang us up by our ears and cut our throat. So, you know, in a very thick Spanish accent. Yeah, but I remember his father. His father was a good guy, but we used to hang out in the basement, and we would pass the controller around. And all 3 of us, including his father, would play Fax Anadu. And his father used to curse at the I remember we used to watch cartoons, and his father, I always found it funny that his father would laugh at the cartoons, and we would play video games, and he would curse, you know, when he would die in the video games. Funny guy, funny guy. All right, enough of that. And a game I never played before here, Spelunker. Spelunker. Okay, and another Funko Land case. I think out of this whole thing, I'm most excited about the Funko Land cases. I think they're really neat. They bring back great nostalgia. So there we go. Other than that, we got a bunch of manuals in here. Look at this. Look at Metroid. Look at that Metroid code. I love this kind of stuff, man. This guy was a player. Look at this. All right, we got all the manuals here. I hate it when you find manuals for games that aren't even in here, like this Legend of Zelda. Hold on a second. Wait. Yeah, all the manuals are here. Okay. And look at this. Look at all these codes here. Metroid codes. Wow, this is do not throw away my Nintendo codes. Do not throw away Nintendo. Wow, that's great. Do not throw away. Hey, guess what? Just like that. History down the tubes. All right, moving along to the next sale. All right, this is where things got really exciting. For me, at least. I'm rummaging around in this person's garage. And I asked them if they had any video games. They didn't have any video games. And I happen across this. And you want to talk about nostalgia, guys. These are some Commodore 64 and Commodore 128. But mostly just this box of discs right here, which we picked up for $1. Guys, I don't know if you ever grew up with the Commodore 64, you remember these bootleg discs. And I remember there were guys on the block that used to make these bootleg discs. They jam like 50 games on a disc. You'd find these like 10 games on a disc, and we used to trade them at school. And the Commodore 64 was so cool. My friend had one down the my friend Rex and my friend Todd had one. I used to normally hang out with Rex, but I can remember loading up these. We would get these discs with 10 to 20 games on it and load them up. And this was at a time where you were playing your Nintendo and every game was $50 a pop. So it was like, here we are, this magical disc that has 10 games on it that we could play. And it was like, come on, come sleep over the house and we'll just tear into these games. Some games would load, some games wouldn't load. It didn't matter. It was just so exciting. And then you would see these games were cracked. I guess Commodore 64 games had some type of, what do they call it? When a computer game is locked and you got to put in a code. I don't know. But you would have teams that I guess would crack the code so that they can actually make these bootleg discs. And you play a game like Hunchback or Hero, and it would say cracked by, and it was the name of the team, and it would have this really cool graphic. And excellent music to show what team cracked it and whatnot. It was just like, you thought you were a hacker. At this time, you got to understand, movies like War Games had come out, and just the romance of having a computer, and you had this machine that could possibly hack into government, into the government mainframe. You know, that was the word. You're hacking into the mainframe. And me and my friend Rex would just sit there and pretend like we were doing it after watching War Games on Laserdisc. Because his father had Laserdisc. His father worked for a university and just like had this. And he was a big fan of technology. And he had Laserdisc player and computers in every room. This is unheard of. You walked into Rex's house. It was like walking into NORAD. It was just like things that you didn't see everywhere. And anyway, he was a single father, he was divorced. So, you know, when a guy's divorced, he can fill his house with all this bullshit. There's no woman around to tell him to put this stuff away or put it into a separate room. There was a what was it? The Texas Instruments computer downstairs. There were 2 Commodore 64s upstairs. His father had some type of IBM going. I mean, you know, laser disc players. He had the house wired with speakers all the way around, and he used to listen to, what was the fucking name of the pianist? Chopin. There'd be piano going through the whole house, and he had like a bed in every room. This guy had life figured out. He had a bed in every single fucking room. And I remember he used to eat soup. He would eat nothing but soup, and he'd come out and he'd give you a bowl of soup in this pewter plate. It was a pewter plate. It's like, what? This is how you know this guy's a single man. No woman in their right mind would allow you to have a pewter plate. It was like eating off of those old Warhammer figures. And you'd scrape the bottom of the plate, and I was probably putting like lead and metal shavings into my soup. It was like medieval times when you would eat lunch over there. Like you never really wanted to eat lunch over there, you know, because as a kid you wanted a fucking peanut butter sandwich. You didn't want to eat tomato soup with crackers. Anyhow, look at this. On-field football, Mr. Cool, Mr. Robot. How fucking neat, huh? Repton, Ford Apocalypse, Choplifter. I remember playing Choplifter. Congo Bongo, Buck Rogers, Jumpman Jr. Let me tell you something. Jumpman Jr., probably the greatest game ever put on the ColecoVision. And I can imagine for the Commodore 64 it was even better. Jumpman Jr. is a fantastic game. You know, and it goes on and on. Spooks, I don't know what Spooks is. Just a bunch of really neat Commodore 64 discs. I don't even know if they still work anymore. You know, floppy disks, as far as I understand, floppy disks have a relatively short shelf life compared to other video game media. Very cool stuff, though. That to me was a really cool find. Anyway, maybe one of these days, if I ever get a Commodore 64, we'll try to boot up some of those games. You know, to me, that's a good time. To everybody else, they'll probably be bored to death. So, okay. Moving on to the next sale. This was later on. Hold on a second. Alright, so here we go. This was later on in the day. Probably, when I say later on, I'm talking like 10:30 in the morning. So, I came up to this one garage sale and happened across a Robert the Robot. And, you know, I found a Rob the Robot once before, a long time ago. It was pretty exciting to find a Rob the Robot, but what really makes it great is it has all the accessories. And now, I have a lot of nostalgia for Rob the Robot. Here we go, there's Rob. He's fucking filthy. He needs to be cleaned up. But what's exciting is it has the part where the gyros go on, and see, you put the controller in there, and the gyros press the button when Rob drops the gyros on. I don't know, you guys ever play with Robert the Robot? It has the thing that holds the gyros in place so Rob can come and pick them up. But this is the cool part. Now, if you've ever played Gyromite with Rob the Robot, you're basically going to fall asleep in your own lap. It's just, it's ridiculous. You got to wait for this goddamn robot to pick up these gyros. I mean, and I think it only works with one fucking game anyhow. At least that's all I've played it with. So what we used to do is, it had this here. This is the coolest part of the whole thing. This is the actual piece of the toy that spins up the gyros. And what they would do is they would spin the gyros really fast. And what Rex and I would do, because Rex got, of course, he got the deluxe set with Rob the Robot because he had more money than God. Anyhow, what happened? We took Rob the robot out of the box. We hooked it up. We played Gyromite once. We put Rob back in the box and slid it under the bed. But we kept this out of the box, and what we would do is we would spool up these gyros because they would spin really, really fast, and then we just make them, and we just push them down the wooden staircase, and they go dong 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 dong. Or we'd spin it up and just put them next to each other. It was almost like Beyblades before Beyblades, and make them slam into each other. I mean, this was the whole toy when you had Rob the Robot. This is all you needed. Anyway, there we go. Robot operating buddy. All right, moving along. Okay, here's where things get a little exciting, okay? You know, it's not uncommon to go to a garage sale. It seems like it happens almost every single one. We ask for video games and they say, oh, you're like the 5th guy, the 6th guy now. It used to be like, yeah, another guy was asking, and it was like, yeah, 2 or 3 people were here. Now it's like 5, like everybody's been asking all morning long. And meanwhile, it's like 8:30 in the morning or something like that. Well, anyway, I asked this woman if she has any video games. She's like, I said, any old video games? So she goes, she gets like, you know, the light goes on in her head. She shoots into the garage and she immediately grabs this box. Comes out with it. She goes, you know, my son wanted me to sell them on eBay, so right away I'm like, oh God. Is she aware, like, you know, of video game value and stuff like that? But she's like, it's just time to get rid of them. So I'm like, you know, yeah, I understand that. So anyway, she pulls this out, a bunch of N64 games in here, and right away I noticed, I got them jumbled up here, but right away I noticed Paper Mario. So, you know, the heart starts going. You guys know how I feel about the N64. I have no real ties to the N64. But I'm not dumb. I know their value. People go crazy for N64 games right now. And you can get, you know, basically when I see an N64 game now, I see a PC Engine game up here. It's like in the cartoons when, you know, somebody would see Bugs Bunny and it would look like a big rack of ribs in their imagination. Now when I see N64 games, I see Rondo of Blood in my head. I see Bonk 3 and Beyond Shadowgate. So, wow. So basically the adrenaline starts going. But now, you know, listen, I'm Bithead 1000, baby. Alright? I'm in this game 6 years. Alright, 5 years. And I can play it Joe Cool now. So I look at the box and I say, I said, you know what? I really kind of look for older video games. She's like, what? Like what kind? I said, you know, like Atari. And I said, like these two right here. So right away I make it sound like my interest is not in, I'm basically interested in these 2 games, right? So I'm like, yeah, you know, you do the old sigh and the, you know, you give them the old, you know. I said, well, really, I want these games, but how much would you want for the box? She goes, I don't know, $10? So I was like, okay. So here we go. Very exciting fun. We'll get these out of the way first. Kirby's Adventure. And Tetris. Okay, and then a nice little gaggle of N64 games. Here we go. Mario Party, Diddy Kong Racing, Paper Mario, Mario Kart 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Duck Dodgers, Namco Museum 64, Wave Race 64, a really fucked up copy of Diddy Kong Racing, and Mario Party 2. There's also a, I don't know, some type of pack in there. And a Game Gear Pac-Man game. So there we go. For $10, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 N64 games. And I never thought I'd be so excited to pick up some N64 titles, but there you go. So, okay, what did we spend today? $20 on the NES console and games. $10 here, 30, 50 for Rob, 55, 50, $60. $60 for everything you saw today. That's a bit of scratch. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's a bit of scratch. But what we're gonna do, because I'm reseller 1000, we're gonna put it all up and we're gonna convert it to PC Engine games, which is our ultimate goal. To buy every single PC Engine shooter ever made. So there we go, guys. I'll have updates on the PC Engine games moving forward. I just thought it was really exciting now today to actually find something. Especially after watching CJR just get like one huge sale after another. Listen, I got news for you right now. I'm a jealous guy and I'm a hateful guy. That makes me absolutely sick to my stomach to watch CJR go out week after week after week and make these amazing finds. While I'm sitting here, biting my, I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. I'm basically sitting here, with my dick in my hand and an empty shelf. So that's it. I'm Bithead 1000. You just tuned in to the greatest video game program in the history of human civilization. And I'll see you next time.